Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada, Gurudev Jaya Gurudev Jaya Gurudev. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna. Dear Vaishnavas, it's so nice to see you again every week. This is number 27.
Yes, Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Just like Manonatha Maharaj told us, this is number 27. So we came Remember the first one was in June. So the very first one was in June. This marks about we're going almost 7 months now. So we're getting close to a year already. And I hope we can continue hosting these and having class with you, Maharaj. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over. Hare Krishna.
Depends very much on you. As long as you can, if you like to hear Krishna Katha, we are going to continue. So I would like to have the permission to record this class. And yes, now. Okay, so we have arrived to the third chapter of the 19th verse, and we are going to read it. But last week, we have promised to tell the story of Matsya Avatar. So we are going to tell the story of Matsya Avatar. And also, I'm going to hint some about the calculation of time. And so before beginning, I want to say Hare Krishna to Adokshaja, who I know since a long time, maybe 30 years this year. He's an Italian devotee. And I don't know if he's listening now, but he's here. Anyway, so we are going to read now the verse 1, 3, 19, but before, as always, we had to offer our humble obeisances to our spiritual masters and our deities. Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyate Satarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadvaita Gadada Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Narayanam Namaskritya, Naranchaiva Narottamam, Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam, Tato Jayam Udirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, who is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troubles unto the heart is almost completely destroyed. A loving service unto the personality of Godhead, which praise with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So now, Panchadasham Vamanakam Kritva Advaram Balehe Padatrayam Yachamana Pratyaditsutripishtapam. In the 15th incarnation, the Lord assumed the form of a dwarf Vamana, and visited the arena of sacrifice arranged by Maharaj Bali. Although at heart he was willing to regain the kingdom of the three planetary systems, he simply asked for the donation of 3 steps of land. So we are trying to now to tell the story of Matsya Avatara that I promised last time, and promises are promises. Brahmana, one thing about Brahmana is that they should be truthful. If they promise, they have to maintain. So we are going to tell the story briefly of Matsya Avatara. The Supreme Personality of God, inspired himself by Vamsha, is personal expansion, and Vibhimnamsha is expansion as a living entities. So there are two kinds of expansions. One is this personal expansion, which is like the Vishnu Tattva or other expansion from the spiritual world, and the other one is called Vibhimnamsha, which basically are us. But there can be different type of expansions. We are here normally we are all Vibhimnamsha, but there are Vibhimnamsha who are invested with power, and others we are not invested with powers. So, as stated in Bhagavad-Gita 4.8, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears on this planet for the protection of the sadhus, or devotees, for the destruction of the miscreants, or non-devotees. He especially descends to give protection to the cows, the brahmanas, the demigods, the devotees, and the Vedic system of religion. Thus, he appears in various forms, sometimes as a fish, sometimes as a boar, sometimes Nrsimhadeva, sometimes Vamanadeva, and so on. But in any form of incarnation, although he comes within the atmosphere of the material modes of nature, he is unaffected. This is the sign of his supreme controlling power. Although he comes within the material atmosphere, Maya cannot touch him. Therefore, no material qualities can be attributed to him in any degree. So the idea here, that Krishna comes in the material world, but doesn't become victim of the material world like we do. He's always transcendental, and the places all around him are transcendental. So Maya cannot touch him, and if he takes the form of a fish, then it doesn't become a fish. It means a fish has limitation. It's small, cannot swim much, doesn't have much physical strength, etc. But if Krishna or Vishnu takes the form of a fish, then he is a very particular fish. It's an extraordinary fish, like we are going to see now in this story. At the end of the previous kalpa, a demon named Hayagriva wanted to take the Vedic knowledge away from Lord Brahma at the time of annihilation. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took the incarnation of a fish at the beginning of the period of Swayambhuva Manu and saved the Vedas. We are going to see briefly who are the Manus, how many Manus we have, the Manvantara, so the period of life of Manu. We are going to see that in a few minutes. But Swayambhuva Manu is the first Manu, and so the first Manu of this day of Brahma, and there was a demon who kidnapped the Vedas knowledge. Just like if a dictator wants to take over a government, the first thing that he has to do is to take away communication. That's the first thing he does. Take over TVs and radios and newspapers. Why? Because this is how the people come together. This is how people intelligence come together. So the first thing you have to do, if you want to take over a country, you have to take TVs and radios. And so at that time there were not TV, but there were the Vedas, which are much better than TV, at least. Well, TV is good if we can utilize them as to teach the Vedas. So at that time, Hayagriva kidnapped the Vedas. So there were no knowledge in the universe. There was a total disaster. And since there was, at the time, there was annihilation, which is called, it doesn't come to me the word. Anyway, there was a partial destruction of the universe. Then he became a fish, and he saved the Vedas. During the reign of Chakshusha Manu, there was a king named Satyavrata, who was a great pious ruler. To save him, the Lord appeared as a fish incarnation for the second time. King Satyavrata later became the son of the sun god and was known as Shraddha Deva. he was established as Manu by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Matsyavatar appeared twice. Once at the beginning of Svayambhuva Manu period of time, and the second time during Chakshusha Manu. And we are going in a few minutes to see the difference between these two periods. So at the time, there were he didn't kill any demon, but just saved the humanity. He saved knowledge also, mainly. And there was this king called Satyavrata, who became the son of Vivashvan. That's why he was called Vaivashvata. Vaivashvata means the son of Vivashvan, and he became the seventh Manu. So King Satyavrata engaged austerity, and one day he was doing these austerities when he saw a small fish. The fish asked the king for protection, to keep him in a safe place. This fish said that there are bigger fish, they want to eat me, so please keep me in a safe place. The king didn't know that the small fish was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But since the king, when asked, he always gives protection, then he gave shelter to the fish and kept him in a water jug. The fish, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, wanted to show his potency to King Satyavrata, and thus immediately expanded his body in such a way that he could no longer be kept in the jug of water. Then he put it in a bigger recipient, and bigger and bigger. And then the king had to put it in a lake, and then the ocean, and then he became so gigantic. And so Satyavrata understood that this Matsya literally means fish. This fish was a divine personality. So when the time of annihilation came, then the king saw a boat coming near. After getting aboard with learned Brahmanas, a saintly person, he offered prayers to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, and thus he taught Raj Satyavrata, a saintly person, about Vedic knowledge from the core of the heart. So the incarnation of Vishnu, Matsyavata, spoke the Vedas. King Satyavrata took his next birth as Vaivashvata Manu, as mentioned in the Bhagavad-Gita. Vivashvamanave Praha. The sun god spoke the science of Bhagavad-Gita to his son Manu. No? That is this Vaivashvata Manu, King Satyavrata in his previous life. And therefore he is called Vaivashvata Manu. So let's take just a couple of minutes, maybe 3, discussing, giving you some hint of division of time. And this is very technical, and there are a lot of numbers. Probably, unless you really seriously write it down, you're not going to remember anything. But I think that even if you're not going to remember much, but it's important to hear. So Brahma lives 100 years. According to some Purana, he lives 104 years, but still is 100 years. Brahma's 100 years are not our 100 years, are much longer. So just imagine that one day of Brahma, just one day of Brahma, is the last a Mahayuga. Okay, a Mahayuga means the cycle of the 4 yugas. Then let me just take some. So Satya Yuga lasts 1,728,000. Treta Yuga 1,296,000 years, human years, because the Devas years are different. Dwapara Yuga is 864,000 years, and Kali Yuga lasts 432 human years. To this, 4,320,000 human, then you have to add a night. So we have 8,640,000 human years. This is how day and night of one Mahayuga. One day of Brahma is 1,000 of this. So that means 400 billions, 320 millions human years. That's one day of Brahma. So do the math and you see how many trillions of human years are these. So why I'm saying this? Because there is another way of calculating Brahma's day, that is according to the Manu or Manvantara period. Manvantara means the period of life of a Manu. Why I'm saying that is better? Because many of Krishna's pastimes or king's life, or great sage's life, are very often described as happened during this Manu or the other Manu. So if we know when the sage was alive, during which Manu, we can calculate mathematically more or less how many years ago this person, this sage, this king, this pastime happened. So this is quite important for all those who love history and everything. So we have said that the day of Brahma is 1,000 Mahayuga, but can be divided in 14 Manvantara. 14 Manvantara. Each Manvantara lasts 306,720 years. So there is no Manu or nothing during Brahma's night. During Brahma's night, nothing happened. So we know that the 14 Manu, the first Manu is Svayambhuva Manu. He's a son of Brahma. Svayambhu is one of the name of Brahma. Svayambhuva means the son of Brahma. Svayambhuva means one who takes birth without a mother, like Lord Brahma. He didn't need a mother to take birth. The second was Varochisha, etc., etc. Then Chakshusha Manu is the sixth of Manu. So from the first incarnation of Matsyavatar and the second incarnation of Matsyavatar, many millions of years passed. And right after the incarnation of the fish avatar, then the Chakshusha Manu period finished. And King Satyavrata became Vaivasvata Manu, the son of the sun god, Vivasvan, which is the seventh Manu. Okay, so this is some Vedic mathematics. I don't think that that you had to remember everything. It took me many years for me also to memorize all this. I guarantee you that there is much more than this. Maybe one day we can do some, maybe a class dedicated only to the calculation of time. It's complicated, it's long, but it's very beautiful for all those who are in love with philosophy and the history. Okay, so this is the story of Matsyavatara, and now we have read already the 15th incarnation of Vishnu, which is Lord Vamana. So I'm not going to promise to tell the story the next time, because I want you to ask me a story. So if you will ask me the story of Vamanadeva, next time I will tell you, otherwise I will not. But be sure that while we proceed with the Bhagavatam reading, we are going to find Vamanadeva again. So let's go to to the verse number 20, if Bhakta Andy, please can read it.
Yes. So it says, in the 16th incarnation of the Godhead, the Lord, as Brigupati, annihilated the administrative class, Kshatriyas, 21 times, being angry with them because of their rebellion against the Brahmanas, the intelligent class.
Yes, remember that in Sanskrit there is no accent, so Brigupati. It's no accent. It's not Brigupati or Brigupati or Brigupati. No, it's Brigupati. There is no accent in Sanskrit. So now this Brigupati is Lord Parasurama. Lord Parasurama is a long story, beautiful story. And he killed 21 generations of Kshatriya because these were very sinful. First of all, they killed his father, but then he continued to kill them, all of them, because they were very sinful. Then after many years, the Kshatriya ladies, they wanted to restart the Kshatriya class. They united with Brahmanas, and then very high class of Kshatriya came into being a mixture of Kshatriya qualities and Brahminical qualities. And of course, we are going to tell the story of Parasurama one day. So please go on.
Thereafter, in the 17th incarnation of Godhead, Sri Vyasadeva appeared in the womb of Satyavati through Parasharamuni, and he divided the one Veda into several branches and sub-branches, seeing that the people in general were less intelligent.
Yes, yes. Every Mahayuga, there is one Vyasa. Why? Because the Vedas, or transcendental knowledge, are taught by gurus and disciples by oral communication. They speak, he who hears remembers, while we don't remember, like a few minutes ago I forgot the name Pralaya, which means devastation or destruction of the partial or total of the universe. We just forget because this is Kali Yuga. But during Satya, Dwapara, Treta Yuga, which is the normal proceeding of the eras, only in this Mahayuga we have Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali Yuga. Otherwise, it's Satya, Dwapara, Treta, and Kali Yuga. Because in this Mahayuga there is an overlapping of yugas. So so why the Vyasadevas appears only at the end of the third age? Because they are very merciful, and they know that the people in Kali Yuga won't understand. And for 427,000 years, there will be only barbarians. How you say that? Barbarism.
Barbarianism?
Barbarianism. Only barbarianism. Because knowledge is what makes a man a man. Otherwise, you are a barbarian. Without transcendental knowledge, without not only transcendental knowledge, but knowledge in general, you are a barbarian. You cannot build up a society without knowledge. So Vyasadeva appears, and this Vyasadeva is called Krishna Dvaipayana. Every one of you who have read the Mahabharata, you should have at this time, or we are going very soon. We have published the Mahabharata now in 3 languages. We know how Srila Vyasadeva appeared as a son of Parasurama and Satyavati. The reason why he is called Krishna Dvaipayana is that he was very dark. His skin is very dark. And Dvaipayana means Dva, two. And Payana means water. So he was born in an island in the middle of the Yamuna. And that's why he was called Krishna Dvaipayana. And Vyasa, because he arranges. Vyasa means someone who cut and put together. Vyasa. V means to cut. Okay? And asa means knowledge. Cutting to put it together. So Vyasadeva is the one who arranges the Veda in such a way that we can understand it. Because it was too concise, the first Veda was the Yajurveda. And then he divided into four. And he divided each Veda into four sections. So we have 16 chapters of the Vedas. And then he understood that the people in Kali Yuga won't understand even that. Then he wrote the Purana, and then they wrote the Itihasa, like the Mahabharata and Ramayana, the Purana, like the Bhagavata Purana, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and all other scriptures, just because they loved us. See how merciful they were. Okay, so this is the end of Vyasadeva is a Jiva Tattva. It's not a Vishnu Tattva, but it's a Shakti Avesh Avatara. Avesh means this is a Vesh, you know, a jacket. A means on. When someone puts something else on himself that doesn't belong to me, this is a Shakti, means energy or power or capacity. Avesh, given, Avatara means an incarnation because he has a son of the Supreme Lord's power. And Srila Vyasadeva was the Shakti Avesha Avatara for writing and arranging and teaching transcendental knowledge. Okay, so please go on.
In the 18th incarnation, the Lord appeared as King Rama in order to perform some pleasing work for the demigods. He exhibited superhuman powers by controlling the Indian Ocean and then killing the atheist King Ravana, who was on the other side of the sea.
Who has read the Ramayana?
Or your Ram.
Okay, but in Rosalind, I think Ishwari also must have read it. Cassandra también. Shashidara, did you read the Ramayana?
I did not read Prabhu, but I saw the movie of it.
The movie, okay.
Yeah, in my language.
You are Indian, so you know the Ramayana.
Yeah.
Yeah, you must know. Okay, so Lord Rama came here for several reasons. One reason was, of course, to kill the demons, the Rakshasas, but not only, also to give the principal religion for that time. Lord Rama appeared during Treta Yuga, and the Veda for the Treta Yuga, or the Itihasa, well, the simple Veda for the Treta Yuga was the Ramayana written by Valmiki. And Valmiki was one of the Veda, or the Vyasadeva of a past Mahayuga. So the story of Lord Ramachandra, we like to call him Ramachandra because our spiritual master like to call him Lord Ramachandra. And yes, we love this story. It's one of the most beautiful stories that human has, and there should not be no human being who says to be human that have not read the Ramayana. Everyone should read the Ramayana. Okay, and there are, of course, a lot of philosophical teachings. It teaches us how a king should be. And you may say, well, we are no monarchy today. We have democracy. Okay. Well, I tell you one thing. If there was one Lord Rama now, I would very gladly exchange democracy for monarchy. Because if unqualified people vote, what is the result? that one unqualified leader comes up. And that's why they don't know what to do with anything. So it's very important that we think how we should organize our society. The Vedas tell us a lot of things. Of course, monarchy is not a good system because we have no good king. If you don't have a good king, you don't have a good government. But still, the principle should be there that people should qualify themselves to be leaders. Srila Prabhupada, by coming here in the West, wanted us to become Brahmanas. That's why in our temple, in our movement, we mainly teach how to behave as Brahmanas and not as Kshatriyas or Vaishyas. Those positions are secondary. But we teach people how to be Brahmanas, how to be clean, how to be truthful, how to chant, how to dress, and everything. So Srila Prabhupada wanted us to be Brahmanas, and yes, we should strive, all of us, to become Brahmanas. First by quality and then by initiation. If you are initiated as Brahmana, but you behave as a Brahmana, you're not Brahmana. So you should learn what a Brahmana is. A Brahmana, we should learn how a Brahmana thinks, how a Brahmana speaks, how a Brahmana behaves, and also secondary things, like how he dresses, where he lives. A Brahmana doesn't live in dirty places, just for instance. A Brahmana doesn't put his clothes twice, the same clothes for 3 or 4 or 5 days. It changes, it keeps clean, etc., etc. So it's very important. And obviously, scriptures like the Ramayana teaches us a lot about Kshatriya Dharma or Kshatriya life, how a Kshatriya should behave. But a lot of the teachings applies to us also. The ethics, the values of Lord Ramachandra in the Ramayana, many of them are not just for Kshatriya, are for every human being. And Lord Ramachandra was just perfect in every way. Okay, let's go on to text number 23.
In the 19th and 20th incarnations, the Lord advented himself as Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna in the family of Vrishni, the Yadu dynasty, and by so doing, he removed the burden of the world.
So, do you expect me now to tell you all the life story of Balarama and Krishna? We have many books for that. I'm sure you have read the book, the Krishna book, and many other books. And all the Bhagavatam is about Krishna. So we are going to talk a lot about Krishna and Balarama during this. But I just wanted to say something about the burden. Bharam. Bharam means something that weighs. And what is this burden? Well, just the demons. Of course, we know from the Mahabharata that many demons took birth in the planet Earth, up to the point that Bhumi, the demigod of the planet Earth, just couldn't keep their physical weight. So many they were, so strong and powerful they. So he went to Brahma and then finally to Vishnu. And Vishnu said, "Don't worry, I will appear." And he appeared. And of course, he killed a lot of demons. And finally, the Mahabharata war happened, and millions of people died during that war. So, but the real burden of the world was not only just the demons, but was ignorance. And that's why Krishna spoke one of the most important, and maybe the most important philosophical treatise, which is the Bhagavad-Gita. Why the Bhagavad-Gita is so important? Because the Bhagavad-Gita is the base of everything We don't understand the Srimad Bhagavatam without understanding Bhagavad-Gita. We don't understand Chaitanya Charitamrita. We don't understand the Puranas. We don't understand the Veda. We don't understand anything without understanding the Bhagavad-Gita. So the Bhagavad-Gita is the real base of all our culture. It should be read, reread, again and again, over and over by everyone. And don't think that because you have read the Bhagavad-Gita, you know Bhagavad-Gita. Read it a second time, you'll see, oh, this I didn't understand, now I understand it. And after 30, 40, 50 years, every time you read the Bhagavad-Gita, I said, oh my God, I didn't understand that, now I understand it. Because it's just so full of philosophy and thoughts. And so the Bhagavad-Gita is really the number one philosophical treatise of our culture. Okay, so we go to the verse number 24.
Then, in the beginning of Kali Yuga, the Lord will appear as Lord Buddha, the son of Anjana, in the province of Gaya, just for the purpose of deluding those who are envious of the faithful theist.
Yes, at the beginning of Kali Yuga. The Buddha we know did not appear at the beginning of Kali Yuga. It appeared some 4,000 and 4,500 years after. So maybe we are talking about two different Buddha. Yes, this Buddha is not the Buddha we know. This Buddha appeared thousands of years before, and so much so that we know that the classical Buddha, I call him the classical Buddha, he didn't appear in Gaya. He appeared in what's the name of the place? Lumbuti or something like that, you know. And his mother was not called Anjana, was called Maya, etc., etc. But we know that this Buddha that is famous as the Buddha, he got his revelation or his realization in Gaya. So why he went in Gaya in India? Why did he do that? Because Gaya was the place of Lord Buddha, Lord Vishnu's incarnation, thousands of years ago. And so this is a very important incarnation. Of course, we know that Buddha, both Buddhas, the Vishnu avatar and the Buddha we know, they condemned the use of animals during sacrifices, and they taught the philosophy of ahimsa, which means not violence, that we should not eat animals because we don't need to eat animals. And we are the proof, the living proof. Look at me, 49 years without eating meat. I'm still alive. So don't believe to doctors who tell you, oh, without eating meat. That's false. It's just not true. You can live comfortably by being vegetarian. And about the Buddha, I think the last week I said something about the Buddha. Do you remember that? Did I do that or not? Or I did it in my, I said something about the Buddha. Anyway, at the beginning of Kali Yuga, there were demons, and Vishnu appeared, and he taught them something. And there was some from the Vishnu Purana that I read. Okay, it appears that you don't remember these things, so maybe I didn't say it here. Maybe I told the story in Italian or in Spanish, and I don't remember. So next week I will tell you the story of the Buddha Vishnu avatar, how he appeared, unless I can find it now. No, it's the Vishnu Purana. Yeah. Okay, here it is. Here it is. Okay, this is a very short, you say, part of the Vishnu Purana that you find in the third book, 17th chapter, where Parasurama says the story of a battle between demons and devas. Defeated in battle by the demons, the devas sought shelter from Vishnu, who granted them their desire. The Lord emitted from his body an illusory form, which he gave to the Vedas, saying, "This deceptive vision shall wholly beguile the demons, so that, being led astray from the path of the Vedas, they may lose their strength. Anyone, god, demon, or others, who shall oppose the authority of the Vedas shall perish by my might. Go then, and don't fear. Let this delusive vision precede you. It shall this day be of great service unto you, O gods." This illusory form came to earth and preached the two deviant renunciants. They would be called Arata, forming the base of Jain religion. Then the illusory form of Vishnu, dressed in red, and told those who deserted the Vedas to stop killing animals. While teaching them a false philosophy, he repeatedly said, "Buddhyadvam," which means know or learn. And they replied, "Buddhyate," it is known, which means, yes, we have understood. In this way, they came to be known as Bauddha or Buddhist. Okay? So this is how the Vishnu avatar appeared. And so it might not be so clear to you why, or maybe it is, but I will explain it anyway, why he preached the false philosophy. Because there were this battle, okay? Any person who followed the Vedas becomes strong. So Vishnu said we had to make the demons weaker. So he appeared as a Buddha, preaching them a false philosophy, so they stop following the Vedas, and then they become weaker, so the Devas could win the war. So the whole Buddha religion, although Buddhism is not really a religion, but the whole Buddha religion came down these false teachings of the Buddha, who wanted the demons to become weaker. But at the same time, there was also another problem, that deviant people would utilize animals for animal sacrifice, which were not really necessary. So he said also, stop killing the animals. Forget about the Veda. The Veda tells you to kill animals in sacrifice. Forget the Veda, forget the killing, everything. So not only he made the demons less strong, but also stopped the killing of animals. So this is the story of how Buddhism came to be according to the Vishnu Purana. So now we are approaching 1 hour, which is when we stop reading. Maybe we can read the other 2 verses, and then we open the gates for questions that I hope there will be many. Okay, so the text number 25, please.
Thereafter, at the conjunction of 2 yugas, the Lord of the creation will take his birth as the Koki incarnation and become the son of Vishnu Yasha. At this time, almost all the rulers of the earth will have degenerated into plunderers.
Yes, this is the end of Kali Yuga. At the end of Kali Yuga, the Vishnu Avatara. Some authorities say the Kalki is not a Vishnu Avatara, but is a Jiva Tattva, a Shakti Avesha Avatara. Whatever he is powerful enough to make such a killing. The Kali Yuga started to end. So after Kali Yuga, there is no immediately a Satya Yuga. There is an ending of Kali Yuga, and there is a beginning of Satya Yuga, and then comes Satya Yuga. we are going to study these divisions of time, which is given in the Bhagavatam, another Purana, some other class. There is a Sandhya, Sandhyamsha. Sandhya means the beginning, and Sandhyamsha means the end. So every yuga finishes gradually, and the next yuga begins gradually, and then there is the yuga. Okay? Then let's read the number 26.
O Brahmanas, the incarnations of the Lord are innumerable, like rivulets flowing from inexhaustible sources of water.
Yes, if someone or some has a question of how many incarnations there are, it's not possible to count them, simply because there are no number. They are innumerable, they are infinite, they are endless. So this is, let's read the 27 and then 28, and we finish the class, the reading of the class today. I like very much this verse. Let me read the Sanskrit. Rishayo manavo deva manuputra mahaujasaha kala sarver harir eva sapra jaha pataya smritaha. Yes, please read the translation.
All the rishis, manus, demigods, and descendants of Manu, who are especially powerful, are plenary portions or portions of the plenary portion of the Lord. This also includes the Prajapatis.
Yes, as you can see, there are many different incarnations of many different types. Of course, at the beginning, we hinted to Svamsha Vibhimnamsha, which is a first categorization of the Avatara. The one, it comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally, or one of his expansions like Vishnu. And then there are the Jivas. We are Vibhimnamsha. So Svamsha, it comes directly from the Lord, and Vibhimnamsha are the incarnations or the expansions from the Lord's energy. And then we read one of the most important verses of all, the Bhagavatam, which proves you that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ite cham shakala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. All the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portion of the Lord. But Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists. So how can it be clear? Can it be more clear? Aite cham shakala, am shakala. Am shakala means portions or portions of the plenary portions. Okay, all the incarnations are portions or portions of the portions. But Krishna is not portion. Krishnastu Bhagavan Svayam. Krishna and not Parasurama, Rama, the Kumara, or Krishna. This verse says that Krishna is Bhagavan Svayam, the Supreme Personality of God, that is Himself. This is the authority of the Bhagavatam. Vyasadeva, Shukadeva Goswami, Sutta Goswami, the greatest sages of our story, says that Krishna, the same Krishna who played in Vrindavan, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the Bhagavatam, and we accept it as it is. Etecham Sakala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Bhagavan is a term which means many things, but Bhagavan also means someone who is special amongst the group. Just like sometimes we find that Narada Muni is called Bhagavan, or Vyasadeva is called Bhagavan, or other sages are called Bhagavan. Because if, for instance, we say Bhagavan, the Narada Muni among the sages of the upper planets is Bhagavan, means the supreme among the group. Okay, so this is what Bhagavan means. Bhagavan means the greatest of the group. So Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam means that amongst all the incarnations we have spoken until now, Krishna is the supreme. It couldn't be more clear. Okay, so we have reached almost 1 hour, and please, now depends how much we are going to continue, depends on you. Ecco qui.
Hare Krishna.
Arrivo.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances with all the glory for Srila Prabhupada. In the verse 26, it says that the incarnations of the Lord are innumerable. And I was wondering if it is proper to consider the manifestations of God in other religions to also be Krishna. Is that a clear? I don't think I need to elaborate more on that question.
No, it's clear enough. Yes, yes. Well. Let's see how to answer, because there are many different ways to answer this very nice question. The first answer that we can give, the first thing that comes in my mind, is that what a person should be allowed to talk about, how a serious person, an authoritative person. I think that a person who speaks about things he doesn't really know, it's really silly, because you don't know so much. Why you talk? Why you want to give the impression to people that you know everything of every religion, or every philosophy, or if you don't know? So we have been trained by our spiritual master in Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Vedic knowledge. So we can be somewhat authoritative in this. We have not been trained in Christianity, although I was born in Rome, more Christian than Rome. There is no other city, okay? In Rome, you cannot walk half hour without meeting 5 or 10 churches. Still, since I think that want to learn something so serious as a religion or a philosophy or a science, you need a teacher. I didn't have a teacher. I didn't have a Christian guru who taught me about Jesus Christ or taught me about their history or nothing. I met a lot of people, a lot of priests, a lot of people told me so many, but they were so unconvincing, so unauthoritative, that at this point, I think that although I grew up in a Christian atmosphere, I don't really know it well, you see. Especially watching how my so-called fellow Christians, meaning I born in a Christian society, how they behave. I really wonder if there is anybody who knows what Christianity is. Because that cannot be Christianity. Christianity cannot be going to Mass in Sunday, half hour, 1 hour, you come out, you are exactly the same. Christianity cannot be, I can do whatever I want because Christ died for me in the cross 2,000 years ago, so I'm saved. Oh, I don't need to understand because Jesus talked to me from the heart, etc., etc. I think all these things are just not Christianity, are just unbelievable, foolish things and understanding of what a religion should be. Because religion comes from God. A religion should be, the source of a religion should be God. It should be given to gurus, qualified gurus. Was Jesus Christ qualified as a guru? My spiritual master said yes. So I cannot say otherwise. Yes, yes, he was qualified. But if you ask me, okay, tell me about Jesus Christ, and no, I don't know. I can only say that my spiritual master said yes, he was qualified, but I don't know anything else because he didn't teach me about that. So I think, and also during my lifetime now of preaching activity, and I always saw, especially preaching in Italy more than any other country in the world, every time you touch Christianity, it's just your class is finished. Because everyone thinks he knows as much as you, at least, if not more. Until you, as long as you talk about Bhagavad-Gita, nobody knows, so they shut up and listen. But as soon as you start talking about Christianity, all sorts of speculation come up, and you cannot get out of that. Because you cannot say you don't know. Because he tells you, I know as much as you. I was born in Christianity. So I think it's a very bad strategy in our preaching work to refer to other religions or other philosophies unless we know them very, very, very well. Because in that moment, we appear as not really serious persons. Again, a serious person talks about things he knows very well. And we can say that we know Bhagavad-Gita. We have been reading it the whole our life. So we can say, or the Bhagavatam or the Purana, we know some Mahabharata. We know about them. I don't think I could give classes on the Bible. I don't think so. First of all, who tells me that this Bible or the words of the apostle, they are actually what they were at the beginning? I know that some people who are not qualified gurus, the first thing they do, they modify the text. So I don't know. I don't trust the Christian church to be like the original. I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe not. Who knows? I know that the Bhagavad-Gita is not changed, but I don't know about the Bible. I cannot guarantee. So how can I give classes on something that I don't know if it is God-made, Guru-made, or Christ-made, or man-made? I don't know. So better to avoid and talk about what we know.
Okay, I understand that. May I throw in another quick question?
Sure.
If Buddha came to condemn animal sacrifice and make everyone vegetarian, does that mean that with the avatars before Buddha there was animal sacrifice, or is this something that just began to happen right before Buddha took birth?
Animal sacrifices are like a drop in an ocean. This is the percentage of times that an animal sacrifice happened or where was necessary to be done. Animal sacrifices happened like in an Ashwamedha Yagya, for instance. In Ashwamedha Yagya, a horse is not eaten. It's is killed. And then if the sacrifice had been properly managed, then the horse will take back his life. There are 2 or 3 sacrifices like this which were done really sparsely. There was no necessity of animal sacrifice. Just like in the Mahabharata, you don't read about animals being killed in the snake sacrifice. Of course, the snakes were killed. But to do the snake sacrifice, you didn't need to kill any goat or any. So they were very, very rare.
That is until the time of Buddha, because the Buddha made such a point of condemning animal sacrifice. Was it more common for some reason at the beginning of Kali Yuga?
Yes. Yes, this is the story, how the story I told you very briefly, that at the beginning of Kali Yuga, since we were at the beginning of Kali Yuga, then there were a lot of demons there, and there was this big war between demons, etc., and devas. They were fighting between themselves. And when a demon takes birth in this planet, the first thing he does, he puts doubts in the mind of people about the Vedas. This is how a demon works. You can say that the Vedas are wrong, but people with a little intelligence, they will not accept it. But if you start to put a doubt, subtly, a doubt on the Vedas authority or the spiritual master that represent the Vedas, there is this doubt, and then they started to misinterpret the Vedas. Okay, then they started to say, well, the Vedas say this animal sacrifice, of course, so we are not able to, maybe we can kill 2 animals, what a difference, 1 or 2, or maybe 3, or maybe we can eat them after, well, this is a waste, so slowly but slowly, what it was a very rare occurrence, which was the animal sacrifice, it became a daily affair of people killing animals, everyone in their home, to kill them and to eat them. So since it was very difficult to convince these people, because just like when your hair becomes too matted, I used to say that in English, that you cannot distribute anymore, better to cut it.
Knotted.
Yes.
Knotted.
Yeah. Better to cut it altogether. Much easier. So the Buddha came and said, no, I'm not going to be able to convince these people, and the animal will continue to be killed by these merciless people. So better to tell them, forget about the Vedas. Okay? You follow my religion, a new religion. And everybody loves new things. You can see, in the history of man, everybody loves new things. They get excited, or it's something new. So Buddha created a new religion, and he saved a lot of animals. Telling them, but he was forced to say, forget about the Vedas, because in the Vedas there were animal killing, and they could not balance it. They cannot do it in the right way or the right quantity. They couldn't. So forget about the Vedas.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes, just like Arjuna in the Bhagavad-Gita himself, what Krishna says to Arjuna. Who remembers that verse? Basically, what Buddha said, forget about the Vedas. Don't be distracted by the flowery words of the Vedas. You remember that verse? The flowery words of the Vedas. But he wrote the Vedas. How can he say that there is anything wrong in something he did, directly or indirectly? He wrote the Vedas. But he said to Arjuna, forget the Vedas. But why he did that? Oh, very simple, because he was telling him something superior. And to understand something superior, he had to the class, the inferior level of transcendental understanding. Just like we as Gaudiya Vaishnava, we love Radha Krishna. We love Radha Krishna, okay? So if someone comes to me and say, so what about Lakshmi Narayan? Is there anything wrong with Lakshmi Narayan? Also, what about Sitaram? Is anything wrong with Sitaram? Of course, I will say, no, there's nothing wrong with Lakshmi Narayan or Sitaram, but, you see, but Radha Krishna is superior. Why? Because I'm Krishna devotee. I'm Radha Krishna devotee. So I will eulogize, I will glorify Radha Krishna more than how many times you heard me talk about Lakshmi Narayana. Not many times. I always talk about Radha Krishna because I'm Radha Krishna devotee. It's natural. So when Krishna came and he spoke about the Bhagavad-Gita, so he wanted to teach the beginning of a very high philosophy, the beginning of the spiritual philosophy, not a good way to live in the material world like the Vedas teach. But you are a spiritual soul. You are not this body. So to do that, before Arjuna started to say, well, the Rig Veda, the Atharva Veda, the Sama Veda, the Yajur Veda, and the Puranas, and the Upanishad, Krishna said, forget about the Vedas. The flowery words. Why flowery words? Pushpavacham means flowery words. Because they appear very attractive, because the Vedas attract you to a better life in the material world. They don't teach you to go to the spiritual world. The spiritual world begins to be hinted in the Upanishad, which is the fourth part of each of the four Vedas. There you find Brahman, you find the first understanding of a spiritual entity. There is not much of a personal entity, like the Bhagavatam, Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna, not Brahman. Krishna is a supreme personality. No, Brahman is not a supreme entity. Krishna is a supreme entity. He is above Brahman. Okay. And so to do that, he had to say, don't listen to the flowery words of the Vedas, now listen to me. That is more or less what Buddha did at the beginning of Kali Yuga. Thank you, Pati Rosalie.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Cassandra.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. This kind of goes with the flowery words, what we were just discussing. I feel like with Buddhism, like a lot of their teachings, like were really based on compassion. And I think that kind of, sounds better than teaching not to kill animals, I guess, because you have to, I think, really highlight the principle of compassion to really get people to not kill animals. So I don't know. I just want to know your thoughts on that.
Talking about compassion, I was, since in these days, I'm dealing a lot with physicians, doctors, physicians, So I was thinking, if I was not a devotee, would I be a doctor? Sometimes I think these ways. And I thought, no, I won't be a doctor. Because it's almost useless job. Because you are not going to save the person's life. You can make the person's life a little better. The person can live maybe a couple of days more or 3 days more, but he's going to die, 100% sure. All your patients are going to die. So what's the point? Of course, this is a little too much, It's not that we shouldn't have, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have doctors, that we shouldn't take care of of course we should. But I'm talking from an absolute point of absolute perspective. The absolute perspective that is better to be compassionate in a complete way. How can you save the person eternally, not just one day or 2 days or 1 month or 10 years? I cure your disease. But what about his eternal life? Or what about if he has an eternal life? Why you waste all your life trying to cure a body which is destined to die? So when Buddha was talking about compassion, his compassion would bring people to be better. And when a person is better, then he can understand a superior philosophy. The superior philosophy is a spiritual philosophy. It's a philosophy where we can practice for ourselves and we can teach others how to go back to the eternal world, where there is no disease, where there is no death, there is no rebirth, there is nothing of all this. This is a real compassion. Eternal life is the only compassion.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Shashidhar?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So I have two questions actually. One was related to Buddhism. I think you already answered it because in Dashavatar, the 9th incarnation or 9th avatar is Buddha, Jain. So Buddhism is is established because in order to avoid killing a lot of animals. This is what I understood from your conversation. Thank you very much for that. And the second question is, coming to this Kali Yuga, when the Lord takes a form of Kalki Bhagwan, the Kali Yuga ends. So how many years is left for the Kali Yuga to come to an end? And if so, after that, is there any Yuga gonna be? Because as per the scriptures, we have known that there are only four major Yugas which I know. I'm not more into it. So I just want to know more from you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, there is only one source of knowledge of how much Kali Yuga lasts. Nobody can tell you. Did you live in a past Kali Yuga, or any of us didn't live in a past Kali Yuga? So no, the scriptures are wrong. The scriptures say that Kali Yuga lasts this or that. There is only the scriptures. And the scriptures are very, very clear. From the human point of view, Kali Yuga lasts 432,000 years. That's what the scriptures say. Of course, there are other numbers, because there are numbers of how much for the Devas is this number, or how much in the planet of Dhruva Maharaj, the polar star, which the time passes in a different way. You take a number and you divide it, and then you have one day when we are going to study, it's going to be a very technical, maybe you're not going to do it, but if you want it, I can give a class on the calculation of time, Vedic calculation of time, where we can say that there are numbers that we can calculate how much the time for the human beings corresponds to the Vedas, or to the sun, or to the polar star, or to Brahma, etc., etc. So 432,000 years is how much Kali Yuga lasts. So we are 5,100 and something already passed from the beginning of Kali Yuga. So more or less we have 427,000 years before Kalki arrives. It's a long time.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. So the reason why I asked this question is because of this COVID and what people are telling, I'm seeing a lot of news channels, especially in some Indian news channels, they're spreading Kali Yuga is going to come to an end. That's why we're getting all these diseases, and there might be going to be more diseases and all.
If they think that this virus is something catastrophic, they don't know about catastrophic. They don't know about catastrophic. You know, it's going to get much, much, much better in Kali Yuga. Much worse, sorry. Much worse in Kali Yuga. Worse and worse and worse. And I don't know if you want to know some insight from me about this virus thing. It's revealing the madness. And I cannot find in English nor in any language I know. I know 3 languages quite fluently. I don't find a word to describe the madness I see. How people, they react to the virus or any other things. Like today is the 6th of January, you know. So we know what happened 1 year ago. So so while it was happening, I was watching what happened in Washington, D.C. 1 year ago. And I was watching this, I was seeing these people. I said, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? There is no word. Madness is not enough. There is something mystical, because it's so crazy that you cannot define it with a normal word. How it is possible that someone tells you something and you get yes, like an idiot? You have seen hundreds, thousands of idiots repeating something they didn't have any proof. Just because their life is so boring, because boring, in my humble opinion, is the only explanation. That someone is so bored with a miserable, useless life that at the end, when something comes out and gives you some excitement, then you take it. It doesn't matter what. It can be the craziest stuff you ever heard in your life. You know, like the Kennedy was supposed to come back. There were thousands of people waiting in Dallas, which is the last city a Kennedy would come back alive. You know, if you are Kennedy, you go everywhere, but not in Dallas. Okay, but there were thousands of people because some idiotic fool said that he would reincarnate and come again in his original form, something. How can you believe such a things? That's how Kali Yuga is working and killing people just because of madness. Just because of madness. So I think we have to become Brahmanas, intelligent. If someone tells you something off the wall, you have to make sure that they did this. You have to understand philosophy. You have to understand.
Thank you, Maharaj. You said well said. But I just want to share this actually. Recently, my friend back home in India, like he got contracted with this COVID and all, and he doesn't eat meat. When he consulted a doctor was telling like, you need to have protein more, and you need to eat eggs, you need to eat fish, and all these things. So, what is this? A guy who doesn't eat a meat, they're forcing to eat. What is this going on? So I was really shocked. What's going on? Person doesn't eat a meat, and how come they're forced to eat a meat?
Well, it's a trap. It's a trap. There are
That's
physicians.
really insane.
Yeah, there is doctors who are supposed to be doctors. But after all, a doctor is just a man who went to school, that's all. It's not that it became because he's a doctor, he's intelligent. He may be a very stupid doctor. So how can we, what do I advise? I'm not a doctor. I cannot tell you take this medicine, don't take the other medicine. You know, if you are ignorant in something, just like when I wanted transcendental knowledge, I went looking for a guru. I didn't go looking for a professor of chemistry. I went to a guru. So if I want to know about medicine, I may not trust him, but I had to trust the doctors. And the mainstream doctors are saying, get vaccinated. And I got vaccinated, all three. So but bored people, they took this and it's okay. Now we have something to talk about. Now we have enemies, those who tell you to get vaccinated against us who without getting vaccinated. Maybe we can I don't know any football. You call it? Tell me two football teams here in America. Very important. I don't know. The San Antonio Spurs. It's a football team. No. Anyway, they fight for anything. They would fight for sport. They would fight for politics. They would fight for philosophy. They would fight for religion. They would fight for anything. Religion, which is the most peaceful things in the world, because it talks about God and the angels, and if you read the history of humanity, you see that for religion, millions of people were killed. For religion, how are you going to kill another person because of religion? It's the most unbelievably stupid thing to do. He thinks that God is another one, so what? That's his business. Why should be your business to oblige him to worship your God? You worship your God, and if he comes one day and say, okay, tell me about you, you'll tell him, but you're not going to oblige him, you're not going to force him. Otherwise, I will cut your head if you are Christian or if you are this or that. Well, what is this? This is not a religion. This is just another madness. Madness means you don't reason as a normal person. So I think we had to, although we may not trust them blindly, I think we should follow the mainstream medicine about this virus and protect yourself by wearing mask, by taking your vaccine and everything. You don't want to? Well, that's your business. Anyway, this is not Bhagavatam. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
If there is any, but tell your friend not eat eggs. They don't do anything. Tell your friend to get vaccine.
I told him there are a lot of vegetarian foods where you can get protein.
Yeah, no need. Okay, but I end now.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Haribo.
I had a question regarding the very beginning where you were talking about Krishna's two expansions. He has I don't remember the exact name, but how he has the personal expansions, and then he has the ones that are like us, that we are also expansions of Krishna. And I guess this ties in more like the Paramatma and how, I guess how connected are we with Krishna then? So is it that him being within our heart as the observer, he's seeing everything that we're thinking, everything that we're doing. So it's like the same Krishna who's in Golok Vrindavan is the same Krishna who's understanding what we're doing, what we're thinking. I guess that's my question.
There is one characteristic of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that although is one, is many at the same time. While he plays with his friends in Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world, he is conscious through his agent of everything happening. Can Krishna of Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan, know what you are thinking now? Yes, he can. But that is not his position. That is not his, in the material world, we can say this is not his job. Krishna expands in many forms, in each one of them as a precise position and utility in the world, in the creation, spiritual and material. So the Paramatma or the Supreme Soul that is within ourselves is divine originally, but it's not Krishna or Vrindavan. It is Krishna or Vrindavan, and not Krishna or Vrindavan at the same time, because it is an expansion, or one expansion, or one expansion, or an expansion, expansion, and Krishna. You see what is the difference between expansion, 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 expansion. Chamsakala, Chamsakala, Pumsa, Krishna Stupa, Chamsa e Kala. Expansion and expansion of expansion. Okay, so this is the difference, and Krishna does that because this is how he works. He likes to work through his expansions. Also because it might be a little weird maybe to say it, but Krishna doesn't like to be alone. You know, nobody likes to be alone. You are married, you have a son, you have a friend, you have your mother, you have your father, you have everyone, your granddad, everyone. We like to be in the middle of people because this is a human nature. And it is human nature because this is the divine nature. Krishna is done this way. We are this way because he is this way. He likes to be in the middle of so many people. So he expands. And someone may say, well, it's always him. No, it's not. It is him, and it is not him. It's a different personality. This personality comes from him, but it's a different thing. So he creates plurality in the spiritual world, just like he created plurality in the material world. We are not one, just one Krishna who knows everything, who can do everything. That must be so boring for him. For us, we didn't have anything to talk about. You know, if you want to know about the Purusha Avatara and the Guna Avatara, we can talk and talk. But if we didn't have this multiplicity of divine personality, what we are going to talk about? Okay, Krishna is the God, that's it. You know, let's go to do something. There is nothing to talk about. But Krishna is so wonderful that he gives us so much knowledge by such a variegated creation, spiritual and material. So the one entire life is not enough to talk about everything. This is how paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya paritranaya sadhunam. This is a very famous verse in the Bhagavad-Gita. This is how Krishna protects his devotees. By speaking Bhagavad-Gita. Of course, he always can also protect his devotees by killing demons, but it is not the main reason. The main protection is transcendental knowledge. And this is what Krishna gave us with the Bhagavad-Gita and with all the Vedas. Okay. So Bhakti Rosalind again.
Thank you, Maharaj. I was wondering in verse 23, it says that the 19th and the 20th incarnations are Lord Balarama and Lord Krishna, but how can they be separate incarnations living at the same time? Because I assume all of the incarnations up until this point have been consecutive, not living at the same time.
Or not consecutive. So first of all, these incarnations are not consecutive. Some of them they are, and some of them they are not. And 19 and 20 incarnation, they lived at the same time because they are different personalities. I have already explained this point. That you cannot expand yourself. Rosalind is Rosalind, that's it. You cannot say, okay, we have two now. But Krishna has this power. Krishna has this power to double himself and exist at the same time in two different personalities. Partially similar, partially equal, and partially completely different. So they talk different, they have a different. If you read the Mahabharata, you see that Balarama was very different from Krishna. Balarama comes from Krishna, so you say, I'm confused. No, you shouldn't be confused, because he is a different personality. There is a formula that I love, that we all should love, that is called Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva. Take this by memory, because it will be useful for your preaching. Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva is that our philosophy is so beautiful, so profound, that one concept can be this one and the opposite at the same time, depending from the perspective. Krishna can be one from the perspective of the Upanishad, and Krishna can be many from the Bhagavatam, from the Bhagavata Purana perspective. So it's one or it's not one, it's one and different at the same time. This is the Veda. Achintya means inconceivable, which doesn't mean that we cannot understand it. Of course we can understand it, but it's very difficult to understand it, because we don't have any experience of this phenomenon. We don't have experience of something that can be one and different at the same time. We have experience of either one or different, one of the two. Okay. So this is the beauty and the height of our philosophy. Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. Tattva means truth. Tattva means perspective. Tattva means philosophy. The difficult philosophy of one and different at the same time, depending from the perspective. This formula of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva was very much used by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his preaching. And since he was preaching part of his life, at least in Benares, he did that. He preached to Brahmanas, Mayavadi, Sannyasis, very high, elevated people. Then they could understand. They could understand this formula, one and different at the same time. So Krishna and Balarama, they're one and different at the same time. That's why they can live at the same time in the same moment and do different things. Balarama was white, not really white, it was crystal. This color was crystal color. And Krishna was very dark, not black, was very dark. So Krishna was Arjuna's friend. Balarama also was Krishna's friend, but he had other friends. One of his disciples was Duryodhana, and Duryodhana was not very friendly to Arjuna. So Balarama was very fiery, and Krishna also was fiery, but a little less. We know Krishna better than we know Balarama. And Balarama wanted to kill Arjuna, and Balarama was killed actually Romaharshana Sutta at the forest of Naimisharanya. You see, all these things are part of the characteristic of personality. And if you take each of the personality, transcendental personality that we know in the spiritual world, and we study them, you see that they are different.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we arrived to 1:35. If there is a last question, otherwise I will do my announcements and then we close today's class. No question. Okay. All right. So we are not far away from opening our library. And next week, if we are going to be able to open it, I'm going to spend some time to explain how it works. But I want to ask you to please go and visit ishvara.org. It is my temple. In San Antonio, we have a very nice temple, and Ishvara Org is my temple. I am the temple president of Ishvara Org. And there are very nice devotees who are helping each in different capacity. So Ishvara Org, it's a place where there is so much service that I cannot list it all, so please visit it regularly. And of course, we have also a bookstore where the books I write, I sell. So please buy them and read them. I write them taking the entirety of my life, writing these books, so that people read them. And so about the library, we'll talk more about that in the next week. So we had a lot of technical problems, so we're still having them. So if anyone wants to reach out and give a hand, is very much welcome. I also want to thank Mati Rosaline and others who sent me the nice, generous and donations, which is important because technology unfortunately costs. And well, basically that's it.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Thank you. See you next Thursday.
Yeah.
And for those who speak Spanish, after tomorrow we are going to have the Spanish conference. Okay. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Manonatha Prabhu, Dandavat. My humble obeisances to you.